Next story, we're gonna look into just the problem of corporations and their impact on the environment and their impact on climate change. Just how corporations are doing what they like to do, which is lie. The truth behind corporate climate pledges, written from the Guardian, facing a reckoning over their contribute facing a reckoning over their contribution to climate emergency. Companies are coming out with a record number of pledges. For climate campaigners, May 26 seemed like the start of a long-awaited reckoning for oil and gas companies. Over a single 24-hour period, a Dutch court ordered Shell to dramatically cut emissions. Shareholders voted to force Chevron to reduce emissions from the products it sells. And a tiny activist investment firm secured 3 positions on ExxonMobil's 12-member board of committees committed to climate actions. Trying to ascribe responsibility for the climate crisis, it's hard to overstate the oversized role fossil fuel companies have played. The products of just 100 private and state-owned fossil fuel companies were linked to 71% of global industrial greenhouse gas emissions in 1988. So these companies, especially the fossil fuel companies, are they are the problem. They are the biggest problem for climate change. Especially because at the end of the day, these companies are only beholden to themselves and their shareholders. And at the end of the day, they only care about profits, and not only profits, but short term profits. The next quarter, the next evaluation, always just looking for that next little bump. And that makes it extremely difficult to deal with when it comes to talking about implementing change that is going to affect their bottom line. No hands down. When it comes to the fossil fuel companies, if to get to the earth, to get emissions where we need to be, that's going to have to change, and they're going to, and they, of course they don't want to. So a subsequent Guardian investigation in 2019 found 20 fossil fuel companies, including Chevron, ExxonMobil, were responsible for more than 1/3 of all greenhouse gas emissions since 1965. The point of which experts say fossil fuel companies were aware of the link between their products and climate change. But it's not just fossil fuel companies fueling the climate crisis. We can't put all the blame on them. Oh no. And even if we immediately phased out oil and gas, emissions from agriculture alone may make it impossible to limit warming to the 1.5 Celsius goal in the Paris Agreement. Across a slew of sectors, from food, fast fashion to construction and heavy industry, companies have helped drive climate chaos. Climate impacts accelerate. The world is boiling, burning, flooding, and melting. There's unprecedented pressure on all companies to start taking their own role in the crisis far more seriously. Pressure is translating into action. Record number of companies are making climate pledges. But, 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 experts warn the pace of action remains glacially slow in the face of a barreling climate crisis. This is a problem that we've known about since the 1960s. As we all know, though, the worst has happened over the past 40 years. Been such a dramatic increase. We see record number record number temperatures throughout years, and especially in this year of 2021 this year of 2021, we're setting record number highs all over the world. Flooding all throughout Europe, burning in California. And you may look at the we're up the 1.5 Celsius goal to be up within the next 100 years. Now, this is for the next 100 years. We're already up by 1.2 degrees Celsius. They may not seem like a lot, but 1 degree Celsius is 33 degrees Fahrenheit for my American friends. So being up by even 1 degree is quite a lot on average. 30 degrees, quite a lot. Now, it's we're already on track of missing that goal of 1.5. Like that is that's a goal that if it was implemented day one, if everybody did everything they were supposed to do day one of the Paris Climate Agreement, we might have been able to meet it, but we didn't. America was pulled out of the Paris Climate Agreement for 4 years, while we had a president in office who gave almost unfettered power to corporations to destroy the environment. So we America alone, I'm sure, uh, it made that goal impossible to achieve just by itself. That's not even including the rest of the world. Now, with the current policies in place, if we don't make any changes, within right now, it needs to be right now. It needed to be yesterday. But if we don't make any changes, the Earth's temperature on average will go up 3 to 4 degrees Celsius. Now, remember what I said, 30 degrees. That's 90 to 120 degrees above average, above what it normally would be. That is going to make some places in the world completely unlivable. Completely unlivable for human beings. Not to mention the just the untold impact it will cause worldwide when it comes to natural disasters. And forget about growing anything. We have riverbeds drying up. This is the real problem. Um, if it gets to that point, there will be, if there isn't change, there will be nothing. 100 years isn't that much. A couple of generations, there will be nothing left. I got kids. My kids' grandkids will have nothing left if this continues. This is where it gets interesting. Now, 50% of Fortune 500 companies have adopted some kind of mission or target statement or goal, but 50% sounds like a lot, but only 20% have made a science-based pledge. The science-based pledge is what is actually under the terms of the Paris Climate Agreement to get your emissions down to a certain level. There's very strict guidelines, and so only 20% of the 50 have actually pledged to something concrete, as what will have the biggest impact on the world as a whole. Now, I think anyone that knows anything about corporations is that if left to their own devices, it's been proven that they don't do what's right because they are out for profit. They will game the system any way that they can. That's really why we're in this predicament that we're in. Because since the 90s, we've been giving them power. Since the 80s, been giving them more and more power to do what they would like to the environment, and there's been a no holds barred, untethered check on it. So not over 9,000 companies that have signed on to this pledge, over 9,000 companies are actually expected to exceed their previous carbon budgets. Carbon budget is how much carbon you're expected to put out as a corporation instead of like a carbon footprint. It's basically the same thing. They're expected to exceed their carbon budget from what it was. So at that point, you're signing on to a pledge just as a platitude so you can slap a sticker on whatever you're doing and try to make yourself look woke, and you're not when you're actually harming the environment. Now, the problem is that it requires immediate action. And if it requires immediate action, it means it requires a lot of money immediately. These companies, they don't want to spend. They don't even want to pay their workers a living wage. Why would they want to spend to help the environment? They don't even care about people. Amazon and Microsoft support support anti support anti climate change politicians, and a lot of them, they pay them a lot of money. There's companies that have received money from the government to invest in green technology and turned around and spent that money to actively harm the environment. And of course, the most egregious offender, as you should already know, is the fossil fuel industries. Fossil fuel industries, which spend over $1 billion in just the past few years, over $1 billion trying to denounce climate change and climate change sciences. In fact, just recently, this is great, just pulling the wool away from everybody's eyes. Wake up, ding dong, hello, wake up. Just recently, an ExxonMobil lobbyist was caught on tape saying how they were actively fighting against climate policies through trading and lobbying. They're making back alley deals to stop any progress from being made. And this is coming from the horse's mouth. This is why lobbyists should wear body cams. I'm sure that he probably, I hope he got fired for that. I hope he lost a lot of money. And yet these companies want to turn around and, instead of having the responsibility of their 71% for just the oil industries. If you think about corporations as a whole, it's probably closer to over 80% for corporations that produce emissions for greenhouse gases, and they want to turn it around and blame people. Now, true, personal people every person has their personal carbon footprint adds up to about a little under 20%. It's about 18% of the total emissions for greenhouse gases. But as corporations, they could be helping in that situation as well, from trickling down. If your products are more efficient and more friendly towards the environment, people are buying those products. If those are the products you're offering, then it would trickle down and people would have less of an impact on the earth. But you don't want that, because it will not save you money. It's going to cost money. So there's really these corporations will keep playing by their own rules unless we do something about it. So we have to enact laws, and if we can't enact laws, we have to do something else about it. Only thing I can imagine that is going to work is boycotts, divestments, and sanctions from the government. The government has to take a hard line stance on these corporations that are poisoning the earth. They have to let them know, if you're not going to fix your act, we're just going to charge you out the ass, and we're going to take that money and we're going to invest it into our own programs. That's the only way to do it. So you can let these corporations, just their for-profit motives, and you can let them continue to run roughshod on everything and destroy the Mother Earth, or the government could take a hardline stance on this and make them, the only language these people speak is the language of the almighty dollar. Make them, force them. Or if you don't do that, we won't have anything left. In 100 years, there will be nothing. The earth will be a wasteland. I think our problems are bad now.